Hello everyone again. So today with us we have Mr. Anshuman Singh. Anshuman has completed his BA LLB in 2019 and he has completed his LLM in 2023 from Nalsar, Hyderabad. And he has been working as a legal officer at TCS. He's also qualified UGC NET and is currently a member associate at Chartered Institute of Arbitrators at UK. And today he will be discussing and dissecting. He will give you an overview of the CLAT PG exam and he'll provide you valuable insights of the paper and the overall difficulty level and what to expect in terms of cutoff. So, yeah, without any further ado, I give the stage to Anshuman. Over to you, Anshuman.
Yeah, thank you, Mansi. First of all, I'm very sorry that I was a few minutes late. Office work, we all know how it is. Yeah, so the 2024 PG exam is something which I had a look. And first of all, at the very outset, I have to say that uh, the exam was a lengthy exam, right? So usually the initial, when the pattern had changed back in 2019-20, the exam was 12 questions with 10 sub-questions, 12 passages with 10 questions. And then of late, in the 2022 and I think 2023 also, we had a slight tinkering with that. And then we had, I think, 20 passages with 6 questions each. But in this year, which is again a deviation from the existing pattern, we went even further, and they had now 24 passages with 5 questions each. So reading 24 passages within the span of 2 hours is not an easy feat. And unless until you have a good grasp and you have read a lot, and you can have that kind of time management and pressure management and read properly and find answers, it is not an easy task. So yeah, this is the first very outset. Yes, the paper was a lengthy paper, and then from what I've heard, a lot of people were not able to completely get through all the questions in the way they wanted to. So at the end moment, you have to rush into some questions, and there you make the scope for unforced errors. That is the first thing. Second, regarding the difficulty level, I'll say the difficulty is between easy to moderate. Individual questions, if you consider, there were no such questions per se which were very difficult, which were something which is, I think, outside of syllabus per se. There may be one or two offshoots, but nothing is totally out of syllabus. And regarding this, I would like to say that the paper was difficult not because the individual questions was difficult. The paper will become difficult because uh, the sheer length of it, right? So to even have these kind of questions and to be done everything within the span of 2 hours, that is a difficult task. So only candidates who have a sort of like robust conceptual knowledge and also complete with good, let's say, reading skills will be able to, let's say, solve these papers and get the high scores to crack the PSUs and the top ranks. Otherwise, even if you have read the law properly and if your preparation is very well done, but you are not as good or as fast as or a speed reader, then it would have been a problem for you to solve this paper, right? And that is a pain point, no doubt. And again, this is also coming from the response that yeah, this is also coming from the response that the sample paper which they had uploaded did not indicate that there will be 24 passages with 5 questions each. So again, something which is new, something which is offsets the trend. The good point about this kind of offsetting is that if this is something new, this is not new to one person or two-person. This is new to all who are giving the exam, right? So that surely takes an impact on the cutoff, right? If you are unable to manage the time, that everyone who's giving this paper would not be able to manage the time, right? So therefore, there is still a chance that even if your preparation is not that good, you can still have a good score, and that cutoff might be slightly lower in only in this account, right? But otherwise, considering the difficulty level, easy to moderate, I would suggest that, yeah, the paper was slightly easier than the last year's. And apart from it, the cutoff should ideally be the same or probably should increase, right? So that is my idea of this paper. Um, Comprehensively, if I have to see sectional wise, so I saw that there were 3 passages from constitutional law, and they were fairly attemptable, except the passage on 10th schedule. So that was one pain point. I think if you have not read the 10th schedule properly, and if that was not something you covered in your preparation, then that might be something which you could have missed, right? And if someone has not missed it, so that is a taking the edge over other kids, right, who would have attempted this examination. Because um, in our preparation, we often do not go to the schedules in depth of it, right? So if you have read the case laws around it, if you have some knowledge, and if you have read the 10 schedule, that would have been an easy question for you. But otherwise, it was something which was not sort of, you could not foresee such a question. The questions from Criminal Procedure Code and IPC were fairly simple, fairly straight, and very manageable. The question from evidence was also very manageable, slightly technical, but still very manageable. The questions from jurisprudence, and that is something which was a surprise, that the questions from jurisprudence, were very straightforward. I think all the answers, all the 10 answers, you were able to find in the passage. So the focus has now shifted. So earlier the questions from jurisprudence and IOS were quite technical, quite difficult. So that this year it was very easy. Even the inclusion of tort law in one of the questions, right, the particular emphasis on negligence was a sort of unexpected addition, right? And that all obviously provides a new dimension to take on. So that is that. If you have read basics about the Industrial Disputes Act, the question about that you could have easily covered. Uh, Contract Act, SRA, you could have easily covered. One thing I would like to say that the one offshoot question would have been from the Specific Relief Act, where they focused and harped more on the amendment. So if you have had some idea about how the amendment had happened, and what was the reason behind the 2018 amendment, and what changed, and how specific relief was made a mandatory compulsory remedy, barring those exceptions of 11 to 14, 16. In that case, it would have been very easy to solve those questions. But if you have not read the act in that way, then that was something which was again could have been a pain point, right, for most. Questions regarding international law again were uh, quite conceptual, and again something which the passages did not help at all. I think apart from one or two answers, most answers you would have to really go fall back to your concept and conceptual clarity of that subject. So, unlike those in jurisprudence, I think the passages from international law were quite from moderately and difficult. It's something. So, if you have not read public international law in that way, there would be a problem in attempting those answers and attempting those questions, right? Um, Criminal law passages, in contrast, were precisely clear, right? And therefore, the passages were also lesser in this exam, right? Um, Apart from this, I think the in totality of things, there were, I think, 5 to 6 passages which covered the case laws from 2023. Um, Majorly, they were garnered, like the case laws from 2022 garnered more attention, and some of 2021, right? So there is a shift in which there's a reduction of focus on recent case laws, right? And I think if you had your stable foundations in the landmark cases and good conceptual knowledge, you would easily sail through this paper. At least the basics of it would have been very, very clear, right? That is something which I think can, and this was also foreshadowed in the sample paper which was uploaded by the consortium. So that means that you would have a knowledge, you would know that what kind of paper would come forth in the exam. And for all those who have attempted this, and for all those who have actually gone ahead and done their preparation in this way, this would have been the only pain point for you would have been um, the timing, right? So if you time the questions well, and if you had an eye on the clock, it would have been something which is easy. And most questions are easy, barring I think 2, 3 questions, 2, 3 passages where you would have to really get back to your knowledge. Otherwise, most questions were something which, if you had some conceptual clarity, it would be easily attempted. So that was something which I could say. Apart from this, the questions from, let's say, income tax, all these are and personal laws are all questions which are sort of subject specific. So if you had some idea of, let's say, company law some idea of taxation law in depth. In that case, you would be able to attempt those questions easily. But I would not say that passage did justice to those questions. The passages usually were there to give an idea as to how the questions would be, while the questions in its own eminence would not be able, you would not be able to touch them just by reading the passage. So yes, you would have to have some conceptual knowledge of those acts, especially personal law. The question on maintenance and personal laws is always something which is, I think, is easier on the easier side of things, and most of the people who are attempting this paper would know something about this law. So that sound rings true even in this paper. I think the question on the personal law was quite easy. The question on evidence also was something in the similar lines of things, right? Um, there were, I think, one or two questions on Transfer of Property Act, and the question on Transfer of Property Act you would be able to solve in if your concepts of transfer of property TPA would be very clear, right? So, barring one or two questions where you can directly call out answers from the passage, most questions required a good theoretical understanding of how TPA works. The questions on, let's say, mortgage by conditional sale and otherwise were questions which it required you to understand how this would work. I remember that I seeing a question on whether it would be foreclosure, whether it will be sale, regarding the remedies of the mortgagee. So those questions you would only be able to touch if your concepts are clear. But if TPA was something you just brushed off or you skimmed through, I'm not sure how much it would help you to solve these kind of questions. So yeah, more or less, these are the kind of questions which were asked. And in my opinion, if you are um, basics about the core subjects, that is including the big five subjects and contracts, TPA, for good, you would be able to solve most of these questions and you would have been able to solve them. And apart from it, I think the only pain points would have been international law, taxation, company, because these are subjects, if you do not have a good command over, you would not be able to touch the time, right? And additionally, because you don't have time, you might leave it for the end. And then again, coming back to those questions, able to solve it within the pressure of time is again something. So that is something I think which is there. Overall, the paper is not bad in terms of how the previous year papers were. It was fairly an easy paper and quite distinct and quite varied in its approach. They try to cover each and everything, all and every laws, right? So you'll find something for from almost all what was there in their syllabus. So yeah, apart from this, I think that is more or less what I can think. Um, Regarding the cutoff, I would suggest that the way the cutoff works usually is of course it's individually every year it is revised and depends on the kind of people who are going to give the examination, and more so each and every year the competition is increasing. So considering the difficulty level of this paper and considering the time, I would say the cutoff would largely remain the same as last year. um, and yes, if you have scored somewhere around, like if you have a safe attempts around 95 to 100, that would be a good fighting score for the top NLUs, the tier one NLUs. So yeah, that's more or less it. The idea of having less time would also uh, push people to mark a lot more answers, and then therefore inducing many more unforced errors. So if you were able to contain yourself, and if you were able to not go with that flow and able to mark right answers and not lose marks on negative marking, right, that would actually save your score and would actually give you a better round. So yeah, regarding, I think the top 20, 30 ranks, they are only uh, entitled for, let's say, PSUs. So if you're thinking what would be the safe score for top 50 ranks, I'll say anything above 78, 80 would actually be something which you will be somewhere in the top 100, if not at least top 50. But we'll have to wait and watch. The answer key is out. The objections have been, I'm sure the people are making objections accordingly. And ultimately, we have to wait and see how people have actually performed in this paper. So yeah, that is more or less my piece on this. Mansi, over to you.
Thank you, Anshuman. Okay, guys, do you have any questions, any doubts regarding whatever we've just discussed? If you have any questions regarding the exam or anything, please use the Q&A box. Yeah, Anjuman, we have one question. Madhuri is asking what should be the minimum marks to get into NLU Bangalore?
Okay, so let me first make it very, very distinct that the way the PG examination works in CLAT is quite distinct from how the UG examinations work. So usually you have in UG the top 60, 70 ranks which are filling the seats in the NLS Bangalore. But that is not the case in the PG exam. So in PG exam, because a lot of people prefer a lot of colleges which are not in the top ranks, you will have like a lot of leeway in terms of how much the ranks would shift. So I'd say that if you are from the general category, somewhere if you are scoring somewhere if you're having a rank above 200, that would ideally should give you the seat in NLS, right? So because I in my time I saw a lot of people who had ranks around 150, 170 who were going to NLS, right? So if you have rank over 200, and also depends upon the choice, right? And of late NLS has also has increased the fee structure, and the fees is comparatively higher than what the other NLUs are demanding from you. So that might also dissuade a lot of candidates from going to NLS. So therefore, I think 200 is a safe rank. Anything above 200, you should be able to go to NLS Bangalore, right? But yes, I think NLS is something which is there. The most competitive, in my opinion, is Ramana Loya Lucknow. RML Lucknow is among the most competitive in terms of ranks. So yeah, that's more or less that question. Marks, I'm not sure. I cannot exactly say what marks exactly you should get. Ranks, I can tell you that if you are scoring anything above 200, um, preferably within 150, you should be able to easily get into NLS.
Right. Okay, so we have one
Yeah.
more question, which is how is Nalsar LLM if one is aiming a career in academia?
Okay, yeah. So that is a very good question indeed. And the reason I say this is because Nalsar gives you since the beginning an opportunity to have not only specialized LLMs but also general LLMs, right? So you can actually take from the bouquet of subjects which are offered in the LLM curriculum, you can take up the subjects you like, and at the end of the day, if you suffice the credits, you will get a general LLM as well. So I'll say that it is in in the country. I think it is one of the best colleges to go if you have to pursue particular a career in academia. The reason is that because the course structured, the course curriculum, the syllabus, everything is structured in a way to add to that fact, right? To add to the fact that you do an LLM from there and then you then pursue a PhD and then you join one of the other university or one of the other colleges to teach, right? So it is very catered to that, and this is quite distinct because you will have a lot of colleges where the course curriculum is catered to either subject specific, let's say IPR, or it's catered to let's say industry. But here, and at least for this, it has been like this. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Okay,
the course structured this way that I think if you want to pursue a career in academia, Nalsa should be your first choice.
right. Okay, so we have one more question. Now, this is from someone who is aspiring to take CLAT PG next year. So he
Okay,
has this
25.
question that would mock tests help in cracking CLAT PG or deep study of portions would do?
Okay, so for this, I think a lot of people have asked me this before as well. Uh, Let me know if I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, okay. So a lot of people have asked me this before as well. That whether taking mock tests again and again would it help so much, right? The structure of examination in CLAT PG is so different that first of all, it is very hard to find mocks. Right? These are elaborate mocks. These are people who are pulling up and putting up these mocks online. There's a lot of research which should go behind it. But unfortunately, this is not the market where you have a lot of material, lot of research. for mock tests and mock questions, right? I'll say mocks are important for you to get in that zone to understand how to answer, how to attempt the examination. But reading of case laws, getting yourself updated time and time again from case laws, recent case laws, uh, reading live law on a daily basis, having conceptual clarity is much more important. Is much more important, right? Because some case law you read, some live law report you read someday would actually uh, give you that edge in the examination. When a question, which is an offshoot question, which comes there, and you are the person who can pull up the memory where you read that particular case or read that particular point in law, right? You'll be able to do that. Others won't be able to do that, right? Ultimately, it's a competition, so each and every mark would count. So that would help a lot more than just blatantly giving mock tests again and again, right? Also, the quality of mock tests would also differ from time to time, right? So I'd say that if you have December 25 is what you're aiming, you should do 10 months of pure study. Um, you should refer to case laws as much as you can. And then again, in the last 2 months, you can then fall back to mock tests to test what you have been studying, to whether it is streamlined in that way or not. Yeah, that's more or less it. Otherwise, I'm not sure if mock tests would help you so much so that you can just rely on them from the point go. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so there's one more question which is LLM from lower NLU would be beneficial?
So this question cannot be answered. Like I have to put some context here, right? The context is that it depends on what is your aim for doing an LLM. Why are you doing an LLM in the first place, right? If your idea is that I want to do an LLM because I want to pursue a career which would help me, where LLM would help me in that, then yes, LLM from even lower NLUs would help you, right? But if your idea of LLM is that you want another degree and you have to come back, you just want to have one more year of studying and you want to either prepare for civil services, judicial services on the side, or prepare for something else on the side, then I won't say that this is the right approach to go, right? Because better you uh, do invest your time there because LLM, even if you do from any of the national universities, it will take a lot of your time, right? And if you do from the top tier LLUs, especially let's say if you're doing from NLS, they have a trimester system, right? So you're being grilled every day, right, on things you have to. And LLM is not like your most people are in the confusion that these are not like your UG degrees. You are not being handed out, let's say, topics of law to read. If contract is a subject, you will be given interpretation of contracts. You'll be given successive readings on from international jurists on how to read contracts, how that particular thing has developed, the history and everything, the legal history and the development which has happened, right? So then that is also time taking. So if your idea is that you want to do something else and LLM is just something you want to do in the meantime, then you should not do it. You should not go for lower tier LLMs, right? But if your idea is that LLM should be a part of your career, that let's say you want to pursue something in academia, then I think you should do LLM from lower tier LLMs. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, LLM does not uh, per se count for so much. Like you will not get immense opportunities just because you've done an LLM from a very like let's say LLS or NASA. Right? It does not open to so many of opportunities. Right? So in India, in our country, LLM is not let's say a distinct ground for qualifying. Right? You can still practice law. You can still go to top firms and everything you can do without an LLM. Right? So uh, it depends on individual choice.
Yeah, and we have we'll this will be the last question that we'll take up. So Shreya is asking any thoughts on good colleges to pursue an LLM from constitutional law and administrative law. It may or may not include NLUs apart from NLUs as well. You can
All
suggest
right.
something.
Okay. I'll start with NLUs. So I'll say that if you want to pursue constitutional law, you should focus on NLU Bhopal, right? They have good uh, faculties there, right, who are well trained in that subject, and they're very famous also for this, right? So you should aim there. Apart from it, you can go to any of the top tier NLUs. more or less you'll find specialization in public law. So constitutional law is a specialization which might not be offered in more LLMs. For example, I'm from Nalsar. So Nalsar did not offer any specialization in constitutional law per se, but there was a specialization in public law in general, right? So that you might. Apart from NLUs, I'd say that you can go to ILI. That is a very, very good institute. A lot less people are inclined to be there. But I think if you can attempt do that paper, and if you have already filled the forms and if you have attempted it, right, you would understand that it's a very, very good. It's very close to it. First of all, it's the heart of the city in Delhi, right? And you have good proximity. The institute is amazing. And for constitution, I think that's probably one of the best institutes in India to pursue constitutional LLM and constitutional law. Yeah. So that should be your first priority apart from NLUs. Yeah, you should go to ILI. Otherwise, I'm not sure if any. I'm not very aware of what all other colleges are offering specialization in constitutional law. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Anshuman. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining the session. I hope this webinar helped you to know a bit about the exam. You all know how the exam was, how it was for you, and you have a slight idea about the cutoff now, and you have a slight idea about what to expect. And but I wish you all a very best for your results, which are probably will be out on 10th of December. I hope you get a great rank and you get an NLU. And yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining. Thank you, Anshuman, for
Yeah.
taking out time for this webinar.
Yeah.
It was really insightful and really helpful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
everyone for joining. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we switch off here, I just also want to appreciate the efforts from Octopus and also people who have just who have bared with me for this time. So yeah, I think all the best for your results. I hope you all are getting good ranks and some of you get into PSUs as well, right? And it's all right. The paper was easy. Believe in yourself and hope the results are you come out with flying colors. Right. And one last parting tip I want to give is the fact that do not harp on much on what NLU would offer what.
Yeah.
More NLUs are coming up with different designs, different specialities, right? And the rankings in the PG are not equally same as what you see in the UG, right? So there are no rankings per se. That is something a conception because we actually move from UG to PG. We think it's the same and this is the best. And also it is very like on top. It doesn't work that. It doesn't
Yeah.
work that. It depends on what is off. And I'll tell you a small point. Do we have 30 seconds? 1 minute?
Yeah, yeah, sure. We have a lot of time. That's
Yeah.
completely fine.
Yeah. So, for example, in my time, I remember the hot seat was for Ramanaloya, and there were two reasons for it. One is the fees was incredibly low, right? And if you compare the fees structure from for Ramanaloya vis-a-vis the fee structure for MLS, you'll see how great a difference that is. So that is one again competitive edge. People who want to do the LLM but do not want to invest a lot of money in it, right? Because you already invested a lot of time and money in your UG and you want to go out and do something, you want to invest some money, so you would actually opt for that. And even the course curriculum, the way they have structured, would Ramana Loyer, you if you are preparing for some services, you would be very happy to have that, right? And this is quite stark contrast with NLS, where they just grill you because they believe in that trimester system. They have a lot of things. There are a lot of readings which you have to complete. So yeah, so do not make an option, do not make a choice just on the fact that you had a conception about how NLUs were in the UGs. The UG ranks are completely different, the PG ranks are completely different, right? Choose a college which you will be comfortable in, choose a specialization you'll be comfortable in, talk to people who are there already, right? If there's anything about Nalsar, you can always approach me, right? And if about any other college, you should talk to the seniors who have gone there and only then make a decision, make informed decisions. And that's my parting note.
All right. Thank you so much, Anshuman. All right, everyone. I again wish you all the very best. And whatever the result be, please be really hopeful and take it positively, take it constructively, and know that you tried your best. And even if it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. Explore more options, and yeah, you can do great. And thank you, everyone. Bye bye. Have a great evening ahead.